Trust. What is it? How do you build it? Who do you trust in the workplace? Who trusts you? What are the foundations of that trust? And how do you build it? Welcome to Great Transition Strategies Monday Morning Stand-up. 5 minutes to get your week off to a great start and potentially give you something to help make you a more effective leader. All right. Trust in the workplace. Who is it? Think of two people that trust is really a challenge for you, or really good and really a challenge. Number one, who's that one person that you implicitly trust, who you trust no matter what in the workplace? Put that person in your head. Now, who is that person, that other person who you do not trust? Like, oh no, no way. Now, think about what are the foundations of that trust or lack of trust with the individual. Right? So I'm going to give you a definition. Right? And we're going to take a look at the foundations and look at how do you build that trust in the workplace. So one definition, which comes from research, it's not from the dictionary, comes from research, is trust is being vulnerable in a time of risk and uncertainty. Being vulnerable in a time of risk and uncertainty. Why? Because you are giving someone else, something that's really important to you, something has to be done. You're giving the outcome of that to someone else's actions. You're stepping back and letting someone else answer. Okay, so let's take a look at a little more depth. Let's take a look at that one person who you really trust a lot. And we're going to use this definition to kind of pull it apart. So that person that you really trust a lot, so what's the foundation of that? Why do you trust that person so much? What is it? So just kind of think of 3, 4, maybe 5 things. You probably have some rapport with that individual. You've probably built up a relationship over time. So if you think about vulnerability, so what's vulnerability? You're probably open with the individual. You probably have some level of transparency with that individual. So when you talk, you know what you're talking about. Hey, Gary, I'm going to give you this project, and this is a really important one for our division, and here's what needs to happen, and this is why it's so important. So here's what needs to make sure you get done in this. I'm being vulnerable. It's like you're being vulnerable with me, saying, hey, here's the issue. This is what I'm concerned with. Here's what I need from you to make that happen. Okay. It's time of risk and uncertainty because you're giving me, you're laying the outcome on me on something that's important to you. Okay. So is that accurate with the person that you have trust with? Now think of that person you don't have trust with. You're probably not giving them things. Why are you not giving them those things? What's holding you back from giving them something? Is it the lack of openness? What kind of relationship do you have with that individual? Have you ever been vulnerable and open with that person? Hey, Gary, I'm really concerned with, so maybe there's some things that you're unwilling to say to me that you're really, when you think about that, you think, oh, there's no way I'm sharing that with that individual. That's probably the foundation of the trust or the non-trust, the ability to be open, transparent, and have some level of vulnerability with the individual. I'm also going to say, if you have that one person you trust a lot, does that person trust you back? What about that person who you don't trust? Does that person trust you? So it's a two-way street, and it happens all the time. This is a two-way street. So how do you build a trust? So now we defined what trust is. Now, here's the foundations of it. The foundation really comes down to a relationship, the ability to be vulnerable. And remember, vulnerable is not sharing everything. Open, transparent to the right degree with the right person. That person that we talked about first, you could probably be more open because you've known that person for a longer period of time. You have a longer, more in-depth relationship. Maybe that's a new person that came in, that other person you don't trust. So it's going to take a little bit more. So the level of transparency is going to be less. Maybe you'll quickly get to where it's the same as the other. But it's really about relationships, being vulnerable, so that way both of you feel safe. That person that you initially don't trust right now, sharing more, they share more, it becomes more back and forth, more transparent. People now feel that I know that person. I understand where they're coming from. I can trust them both ways. Trust to me is the foundation of leadership. Zero trust, zero leadership. You have to have trust to make it work. It's about the relationship and the level that you're willing to share and be open with individuals so they understand where you're coming from. Thanks for listening. Hope you found that helpful. Have a great week. See you next Monday morning, 8:30.